when it says live. Oh, we're going to sing Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Should we move it up so that it's a little in a better key for you?
Yeah.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. We're going to say Shivtachem l'shalom, which is unusual, which means like sit down, angels, get cozy with us. Shivtachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All right, Zeitchem. Zeitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hay, 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 what you need to know right now is that off screen, both children are playing air guitar to Shalom Aleichem. Yeah, air guitar.
Air electric guitar.
That's right. That's right. Shabbat Shalom. I see a few of you are here with us tonight, right now, and it would be so nice to build a little bit of community around that. Like, say who you are if you want in the chat, where you are, where you're tuning in from, how you're doing tonight on this holy Shabbos. It's good to be with you wherever you are. All right. I want to direct our attention inward. So much of the week is spent living in the world of out there, kind of internalizing, taking in, the world throws stuff at us and we can't help ourselves but hear it, see it, smell it, be bothered by it, and let it get under our skin, basically ingest it without even meaning to, just because we're people in the world. And so I want to invite us right now, not right now. No. Okay, that's okay, sure. Adira's going to play calm music on the finger piano while I speak. Okay. So I want to invite us as we light these candles to take a moment and actually think about what you want to keep from everything you've seen, heard, smelled, done, been bothered by this week, and what you want to exhale right now as we light these candles. I always ask my kids, and I always ask myself, like, who do I want to send love and light to tonight as I light these candles? Who you want to pray for as we light these candles? And right before Shabbat, I got a barrage of emails from clergy people in Minnesota who are writing and speaking eloquently and beautifully about what's happening in their state, and asking for support and for people to show up to support them. And so I want to send love to them. I want to send awareness that, like, we know, we see you, we are with you. And if anybody wants information about, like, where to meet and what to do in Minnesota, for example, like next Friday the 23rd, write me an email. because people are going out on the streets to protect their neighbors, really at great risk to themselves. And it's no joke. It's no joke. And so I just, in this moment, sending out love to everybody who needs it at the same time is taking a moment to just feel that well of love coming up from within, inside of yourself.
And be calm.
And Adira says, and be calm, yes. All right. So, I'm going to take these matches here that I got at the Mishkan Hanukkah Market. Thank you very much. And I'm going to invite you to gather around your candles, to light them, to gather in the warmth, the healing. I'll bring my computer close to these lights so that you can do that, so that you can gather in the light and the healing from these candles, right? I'm going to be careful.
Is your computer going to die?
No, I don't think so. Okay.
Well, not.
Hey.
Okay.
So take a moment to take in the light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you, Sarah, for letting me know that this service was not in our weekly email, so that's why people might not be here. Well, the good news is this will live on until the end of time on YouTube. So, I guess that's just what we'll have. We'll have after the fact. And welcome Gail and Mary and Becca and Sarah, everybody who's with us, and Jacqueline and the Herbstman family. And I just, like Adira said a moment ago, I want to invite us to come to stillness. These candles in the background, I don't know if you can see them because of the focus on the camera, but to just breathe in the spaciousness of Shabbat, of this moment. There is nowhere else you need to be, you know? This is it, right here, right now. And that's perfect as it is. You know, I was going to do a blessing for my kids, but then they left. So I'll just do a blessing for any kids that are out there. And you know what? Because all of us are somebody's kid, turns out this is a blessing for everybody. So I'll put this up on the screen here so that you can see it, so that you can use it if you would like. If there are people in your orbit, if you're in, you know, in the room where you are who you want to bless, here we go. So the custom is, if you've got a head near you, to put your hand on their head, you know, put your hands on there like that or something like that. But you know what? If you're just solo by your computer, I invite you to compassionately, lovingly put your hands on your own cheeks, like, you know, you're holding your face between your hands, like, I love you so much. And I'm going to send you a blessing, okay? Yisimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'cheminasheh. Yisimech Elohim kasara Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, and most importantly, may God make you like you. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichoneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and guard you and keep you safe and healthy. May God shine a path for you, and may you shine your own light bright in the world. May you be a peacemaker, and may peace follow you wherever you go. I have a friend who blesses his kids every week by saying, may you live your life with kindness and integrity and courage, and may you always choose love. So I want to invite you into the question of, if you were to give a blessing every single week that was the same every single week, that was relevant every single week, that mattered every single week, that needed to be said every single week, because we need to hear it every single week, because maybe we forget these things that are inherent inside of us, they need to be woken up. What would that short blessing packed with punch be? What would those words be? What would you need to hear? Just curious. You could think about that maybe while I sing another song here. Let's do Ana B'Koach. Let's do this one. And we'll do this as a kind of healing prayer and intention for everybody who is struggling right now in all of the ways that we are. People who are dealing with recent diagnoses or recovering from surgery, or trying to stay sober, or trying to get pregnant, or just in a bout with mental health, needing to feel a sense of optimism and hope and purpose, trying to get over heartbreak, whatever you might be going through. This is a prayer that God's strength loosen the bonds that feel constricting and relieve the suffering. Refuah shlema to anybody you're thinking about tonight. Ana b'koach gedulat yemincha tatir tzerura kabel rinat amecha sagveinu tareinu nora. Gosh, I haven't been playing with a pick, and I have to tell you, it's not the same. I just need to play with a pick. I'm not that skilled, so we're going to do this again. Ana v'koach gedulat yemincha tatir tzerura kabel rinat amecha sagveinu tareinu nora. Na, 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 gibor, na, 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 gibor, na, 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 gibor, na, 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 gibor, dorshe, yechudcha dorshe, yechudcha kevavat shomrei. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. The Golden Architect. For a second I thought it was the Golden Anarchist. It's like similar letters. The Golden Architect. Be love. Be you. So good. Any other blessings? I want to hear them. Na, 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 gibor, na, 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 gibor, na, 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 gibor, na, 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 gibor, dorshe, yechudcha dorshe, yechudcha kevavat shomrei. Ana b'koach gedulat yemincha tatir tzerura kabel rinat amecha Sagvenu tarenu nora. Amen and refuah shlema. All right. It's very nice to be here with all of you on this Martin Luther King Day weekend. It also feels to me, I wonder if you've noticed this, it feels to me like all the organizations I care about have extended Martin Luther King Day weekend, which is like usually extended into the week on Monday. They've extended it back into this week. So I have been to 2 major events with hundreds of people already this week and the last 2 days, this morning, yesterday. I am not complaining. It is very inspiring. Both of these events felt like big, like gospel concerts, even though they were actually like serious, like political and civic events. Not complaining about that either. It is really inspiring and important to be reminded not just how visionary, but how persistent and how relentless a person needs to be who cares about realizing the promise of this country in a moment in time when the power structures do not want to share that power. And we learned that from Martin Luther King Jr. Both of the events I went to this week felt timely and necessary and inspiring. And, if you don't have plans yet for Martin Luther King Day, I want to suggest that you figure something out. Do something. Go somewhere. Don't just take the day off. Like, go do something. Watch a documentary. Watch any one of a million different things on YouTube if you just type in Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Because, it's important. Okay, goes without saying. Okay, I'm also always struck at this time of year, when I start to sit down to write my sermons for, parshas that happen in the month of January, I'm always struck by the confluence of the subject matter of civil rights activism, obviously because of the American holiday happening at this time of year, and also the story we are reading in the Torah, always at this time of year. My bat mitzvah parsha was Bo, which we come to next week, and that was Martin Luther King Day weekend, 1994. But we're in the midst of the Exodus story. There is something about this time on the Gregorian calendar, which is to say, mid-January, and also the Hebrew calendar, which is to say when we are reading, the end of Tevet and Shvat, when we begin to read the book of Exodus. And it, like, the thing that's happening on the calendar, on both calendars, is the convergence on a theme that is just begging for us to hear it. So I'm going to share this theme with you by way of a story about this date on the calendar and this parsha in history, actually in the city of Chicago. So exactly 63 years ago, this weekend, this very weekend, but before Martin Luther King Day was a holiday, because it wasn't needed yet, because he was still alive, he attended an event up at the Edgewater Hotel, just north of here, a gathering of over 700 faith leaders, Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, called the Conference on Race and Religion. And it was there that a white-haired rabbi from Warsaw, educated in Berlin, who had lost his entire family in the Shoah, in death camps, this rabbi got up and gave an eloquent speech in English, which was his 6th language, that attracted the attention of that young black pastor, half his age, from Atlanta, who was already, obviously, a leader in the civil rights movement. And that rabbi was Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, and he opened his remarks. He opened his remarks with the following words. At the first conference on religion and race, the main participants were Pharaoh and Moses. Moses' words were, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go that they may celebrate a feast to me." Well, Pharaoh retorted, "Who is the Lord, that I should heed his voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and moreover, I will not let Israel go." So Heschel went on, and he said, "The outcome of that summit meeting has not yet come to an end. Pharaoh is not yet ready to capitulate. The Exodus began, but is far from having been completed. In fact, it was easier for the children of Israel to cross the Red Sea than for a Negro to cross certain university campuses. And in 1963, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King heard these words and knew that he had found someone to march with. They did not have the same history. They did not agree on everything, but they did share a vision for equal justice and dignity under the law for all of God's children. So I was asked to give a prayer today at the mayor's Martin Luther King Day breakfast. And I knew that I would be one of the only Jews in a room full of about 1,000 people who don't know much about Judaism. And I knew that in the house would be Mayor Brandon Johnson and also the keynote speaker, VP Kamala Harris, both of whom large swaths of people have decided they couldn't or can't work with because of political choices those leaders made along the way that challenged some of their core convictions. And as a result, they wrote them off. They did not vote for them. They would not work with them. And I get it. I understand. I understand that instinct, especially like in the presence of a robust democracy with good options to choose from. You know, you have the luxury of prioritizing certain issues and focusing maybe on one group's pain or needs, yours or someone else's, and ignoring the bigger picture. You know, the larger system in which we operate. It almost fades into the background because we just take it for granted. And if we do think about it, we figure, oh, the system is resilient. Like I can focus on this issue because the thing that's happening here is robust and resilient and will hold us, even in moments of turbulence and crisis. And we figure, like we've got time. We'll get to the big stuff later. Yet. Here we are with ICE agents menacing our streets and shooting protesters, with the Constitution feeling like mere kindling for a new American order. So, knowing all of that, I wanted to share with you what I said this morning to that room of 1,000, hoping that the mayor was listening, hoping that VP Harris could hear me, and hoping that the next time we have a national crisis looming, people of conscience can work together to avert that crisis and imagine working towards something better, including and in the presence of their differences, their deeply held differences. By the way, for anybody who's here for the first time, welcome to Mishkan. I've never given a political sermon in my life, so I thought I'd try it out today. You'll tell me what you think. Okay, so I am inspired by people who choose to form alliances in the presence of their differences. I think it's incredible. It's necessary. I don't see another way to build the momentum and the coalitional power to change things on a mass scale, on the scale we need to, unless you are joining hands with people who disagree about some fundamental issues. I don't see how you do it. And so I want to begin, or rather return to that vision of Heschel and King and their meeting at the Conference on Race and Religion, and building a relationship that would last, decades. Unfortunately, both of them died before their time. I want to imagine for a moment that Heschel and King have a reunion today. And if Heschel and King had a reunion today, Heschel might give that same speech, but update it and say, it was easier for the children of Israel to cross the Red Sea than for a family in Little Village to walk their kids to school. Or for women in half the states in this country to get reproductive care and an abortion if they need one. It was easier for the children of Israel to cross the Red Sea than for a trans kid to get the health care they need to grow up feeling safe and healthy and right in their body. Or for an asylum seeker to seek refuge in our country without being treated as a criminal. How many of our grandparents or great-grandparents or parents or ourselves came to this country seeking refuge. And we are here because we were treated like a person, right? It was easier for the children of Israel to cross the Red Sea than for a voter in too many parts of this country to trust that their voice will be heard rather than suppressed, or for a public servant or a doctor or a scientist or a university professor to tell the truth without fear of retribution and intimidation and political interference, or for a poor family to count on food and housing and health care not being pulled out from underneath them in the richest country in the world. Pharaoh didn't go anywhere because Pharaoh isn't a person, but a system. Any system that hardens its heart, creating safety for some by denying it to others. We see this all over the world, right? But just like Pharaoh didn't go anywhere, neither did Moses. Moses, too, is a system, is a coalition of people of conscience and moral courage and faith communities who, hear me well, do not need to agree on everything everywhere in the world in order to join hands and march toward the promised land, certainly here in Chicago. To keep one another safe here in this city, we can do that. To preserve democracy here in this country, we can do that. Moses also is not just a backward-looking king and Heschel. It's, in many cases, like the faith leaders I sat in that room with this morning. People with whom I've stood shoulder to shoulder, singing and marching and organizing and protesting and supporting and holding up signs and defending one another and the people of our city in the presence of inhumanity. So this morning I offered gratitude to the mayor and to our governor for modeling courage over capitulation. I invited people to say with me, courage over capitulation, in the face of inhumane policies. I offer gratitude to those who marched before us, not just to Dr. King and to Heschel, but also to some pretty badass Chicago rabbis, like Rabbi Robert Marks, one of the early leaders in the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs, who worked closely with King on issues of housing and segregation in Chicago. I have so much gratitude for my own rabbi, Rabbi Arnold Jacob Wolf, who was 5 years older than Martin Luther King, and who marched with him and with John Lewis in Alabama for civil rights and preached it and hosted them up here in Chicago synagogues, even when it wasn't popular. But I don't just want to look backward at how great Jewish leaders of the past stood alongside great black civil rights leaders. I want to inherit that legacy. I want to pray that we embody that legacy and walk in their footsteps, and that we join hands. And then at this point in the room, I asked people to put down their phones and join hands with the person sitting next to them across distance and difference, because we need each other. And I asked them, I said, turn to a neighbor and say, I need you. I need you. Turn to somebody else in the room that you're sitting with, if there are people in the room you're sitting with, and say, I need you. And if there's nobody else in that room, get in the chat and say, I need you. You're talking to me and you're talking to everybody else here and you're talking to everybody else who makes it this far in the live stream. I need you, and I need you, and I need you. We need each other to be honest, about what troubles us and keeps us up at night. And we need to be able to hear the truth of another who has different fears and anxieties and moral outrage. And we need to be able to hear it without denying it or pushing it away, because it is only then that we actually can join hands to work on that which is ours to work on together, right? Not by denying the differences, but by recognizing the time and the place to lift them up, and then also to place them aside so that we can recognize the larger call that we are here to respond to. This democracy isn't God-given or something we can take for granted. It's something we have to nurture and tend to and protect and fight for, even and especially when it means working alongside people with whom we don't see eye to eye on everything. Our issue, whatever it is, can't be the top priority for everyone when democracy is on the line for all of us. I hope it landed. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu. May the God who walked with those who came before us walk with us and help us form the army of courage and compassion we need to be to take on Pharaoh, to take care of one another as we march through this wilderness together toward a better place, united by the belief that this country can and must live up to its promise of liberty and justice for all. So on this Martin Luther King Day weekend, and as we read Parshat Va'era, in this I pray. Shabbat Shalom. And with that learning, I think we will raise a glass. Raise a glass. Becca, I need you. Golden architect, anarchist architect, I need you. All of you who are here, I need you. All right, so I'm gonna put up the words here for Kiddush. Feel free to grab something tasty to hold in the air and then take a big swig of when the time comes. Oh, thanks, Gail. You amend me. All right, where's my Kiddush? Where's my kid? Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. Share. Side by side. Bam. See that? January 1994, like I said. This weekend. 32 years ago? Oh my God. Wait. 94. Yeah, 32 years ago. That's crazy. Okay. Vayhi erev, vayhi boker, yom hashishi, vayachulu hashamayim v'haaretz, v'chol tzivam, vayachal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mekol melachto asher asa, v'yavarach Elohim et yom hashvi'i, v'yikadesh oto, ki vo Shabbat mikol melachto asher vara Elohim la'asot. Savri chaverai, and from wherever you are, you say l'chaim, you just say l'chaim. L'chaim, oh thank you, l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'i kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, yotanu kidashta, im kol hamim. Shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. So, I would say the most memorable moment of the event today was they gave out some awards at the end for, I don't know what they called it, the champion of freedom or something. Hang on, here, let's see. This is the program. This is the table of contents on which I am mentioned on the same list as VP Kamala Harris. Just need you to see that. Okay, thank you. And Champion of Freedom Award presentation. And so they gave awards to Jacqueline L. Jackson, who is the wife of the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who has been along for the entire ride of his incredible political career and career of activism. But she, in her own right, deserved to be recognized. And then Reverend David Black, who was shot in the head with a pepper ball outside of the Broadview Detention Center and, protesting. And they were supposed to just receive the awards and just go off stage. And then she just got up there and was like, and this woman's 80 years old. Basically, I'm not supposed to speak, but I gotta speak. And she held forth for like 10 minutes without notes, just speaking with poise and eloquence and the weight of the history she has lived through, but without feeling, tired or exhausted or like beleaguered, but more, she said, I am part of the past and you all are part of the future. And, and then she kind of just threw down, like, but here's what you need to know about how to take care of yourself, how to march toward that promised land, knowing what I know, because I've been there. And I've done this work. And it ain't easy, but I'm still here. And she looked great. And it turned out, actually, like, 3 of her kids were sitting at my table. And that's fun because on Monday, I'm going to their benefit, and I'm doing a benediction at the Rainbow Push Coalition benefit, or Martin Luther King Day event. And for that one, because it's at the very, very end, I just kind of had this feeling that people would be putting their coats on and leaving, because, like, who am I? They've got an equally amazing program and roster of incredible people doing amazing justice work in Chicago. Who wants to stay and listen to some rabbi? However, I sent them a note and I said, I've never done a benediction at the end of an event like this before. Could you maybe send me a previous year's recording so that I could understand what other people have done? And they sent me one from a couple years ago. And the Reverend, who's like this distinguished, like beautiful older Black woman, and she gets up there, she gives a beautiful a benediction and sort of closing, and then leads people in crossing their hands and singing "We Shall Overcome," which is beautiful. But I thought, the version of "We Shall Overcome" in the Jewish community right now is this song. And so I'm gonna play it for you, and this will be our closing tonight. But I sent the words to the organizer, and I said, in the Jewish community, this one's hitting real hard right now. What do you think about this? I sent her the lyrics, and she said, I've got chills. Do it. I'll put it on slides. Let's get the whole room singing. So that is the plan on Monday. You heard it here first. All right. Let's put this up here. All right. Sorry. Just figuring out where I want to be. All right. We'll do that. There we are. We rise, humbly hearted, rise, won't be divided, rise, with spirit to guide us, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise, all of the children rise, elders with wisdom rise, ancestors surround us, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise, up from the wreckage, rise, with tears and with courage, rise, fighting for life we rise. Shabbat Shalom. Hope to see many of you tomorrow, and lots of stuff going on. We'll put a link to the newsletter in the chat for anybody who wants to know what's going on in this community. But lots of things for Shabbat and during the week, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but just go find our calendar and look at a recent email and join us for the next thing. And in the meantime, good Shabbos. Thanks for being here.